Hey there, Full Live Athlete Pastor Channel, and it is Justin speaking. We are on day 91 of the Online Bible Reading Club. We are officially a quarter of the way through reading the Bible. It is a great accomplishment. Congratulations. You are to be commended and keep going. It just gets better. Now, we are on some very important words today. We are looking at the first part of Samson's life in Judges 13 through 15, so 3 chapters in Judges today. And then we're on the second half of Luke 6, starting in verse 27 and concluding in 49. So a rather lengthy passage today, but it's good reading. The Samson narrative is that he's the final judge, the climatic judge. He even has a birth narrative, much like John the Baptist and Jesus. But he has, in some ways, in many ways, nothing like them. He's impetuous. He is driven by lack of wisdom. He's more instinctual, super strong, right? He's this famous strong judge who's able to slay the Philistines. And so we see he defeats the Philistines in the 15th chapter. But really, this guy is an example of how we need a king. And that's the point of Judges, is that we need a king, but we don't need just an earthly king. We need the Lord to be our king. We need his word to rule in us. And so what Samson really shows us is our need for sanctification. That when we enter into a relationship with Jesus, the Lord as king, Jesus, is going to subdue our sin. And he's going to be subduing our sin all of our days, and we are at work in participation in that as well, putting to death sin. And what Samson is reductio ad absurdum of what it is to have all the blessings or power, so to speak, but no sanctification. He is pure justification with no sanctification. We'll talk about his justification the next day as we conclude the Samson story, but what we're going to see here is we need a king to rule over us and to obey his will. As we're seeing the epilogues as well as Judges, is that Samson will defile himself. He'll defile his parents with this uncleanliness. He's eating the lion and the honey out of the lion, and it's all these things that he's doing that are scandalizing everyone. He doesn't respect the law, and so it says in Judges that in those days, there was no king, and they did what was right in their own eyes. And that is trouble. When you get to the New Testament here, we've got Luke, and Luke chapter 6. This is the end of the Sermon on the Mount in the Luke version of it. And as you look at it, we've got love for enemies. That's pretty countercultural, isn't it? Love for enemies. We've got judging others. And we've got a tree and its fruit, and the wise and foolish builders. Let's talk about this do not judge lest you be judged thing. There's a real tendency in our world to just say, "Hey, be merciful. Don't judge people. Don't give them. Don't measure what they're doing." And it says there, that you shouldn't. In verse 41, look at the speck of sawdust in another's eye, a brother's eye, and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye. And so, how can you say, let me take that speck out of your eye? You need to get that out of your own eye when you've got a whole plank in your own eye. So we're not to be hypocrites and be unaware of our own sin. That's the point there, is that you should examine yourself, and I should examine myself and my own sins. But it never, it actually says, understand sin. It says, do not be judged or you will be judged, or do not judge, or you will be judged, or do not condemn, or you will be condemned. Forgiven will be forgiven at the beginning of this chapter or section. And so as you think about that, you should be understanding what sin is. This doesn't mean that there are no standards. In fact, that's the point. There are standards. You may realize that in looking at the standards that you don't meet them worse than other people, and that should be good news for you, because you're aware of the sin and you can be grateful for Christ's forgiveness, but you can also work to change and repent of those sins and come back to God. And so those are the things that you need to be aware of, is that there is a standard. It's not just this idea that there's no standard out there, so we shouldn't judge. But the idea when you talk about the do not judge passage is be aware of the standard, but be aware of your own sin and the standard that exists. So the idea of the world is, look, Jesus says, do not judge. So that means anything goes. That is not the point of this passage. Judge not, lest you be judged. Does not mean there's no standard. It means be careful to examine your own life and don't be sitting around as a judge of all, imposing the standard upon them when you're not going to impose it on yourself. And so that's the idea there, that a Christian could be living a life of that kind of, absurdity, is just it doesn't exist. A Christian bears good fruit, and that's the next passage in the Sermon on the Mount. You're going to bear good fruit. You're going to have sorrow over your own sin. You're going to know your sin, not to the utmost degree, but you're going to know it and despise it and turn from the evil. But if you're evil, then you're going to bear evil, and that's going to be their fruit. You're going to have a rotten tree with rotten fruit. But if you're a good tree, whatever's in your heart's going to come out. If you have Jesus in your heart, then Jesus is going to flow from you, and you're going to be like a one with living waters flowing from you, as John 7 says there. You're going to be full of the Spirit. So we build our house on the rock, and that's the very foundation of the very conclusion of the sermon, is that we build our house on the rock so that we'll be able to stand when the storms of God's judgment fall. We will stand because we will be built and rooted on Christ, who is our justification, who is our righteousness, not our own righteousness. That's certainly a recipe for disaster. If I'm going to stand upon my own merits, then I will be wiped away and shook to the ground when judgment comes and scrutinizes my works. But if my works are Christ's works, then I will stand. That's what faith is. I'm looking to another for my salvation. So that said, we'll end it there today. It's just a quick lesson through the Sermon on the Mount and the first part of Samson. Looking forward to next time, where we get to see the conclusion of Samson and talk more about his role in redemptive history. So with that said, if you're watching to the end, like the video. It's been a pleasure. We're a quarter of the way through this, and we'll be doing a live stream coming up soon. I hope to give you guys more heads up about that and get back into the regular producing of videos for you. So if you got questions, let me know in the comments. Like it, share it, comment, all those things. We'll see you next time. Peace.